we're going to be speaking to a really dynamic young man who has very ambitious standards. As you can see the title there on the screen that says, How to Retire in Under 10 Years Through Property. And Lawrence is passionate about enabling investors in South Africa to succeed and have thus created a suite of coaching services and educational products. So let's give it up for Lawrence Bowl.
I educate people to reach financial freedom through property through cash flow positive investments, specializing in the low-income multi-let residential market.
I used to do these kind of talks every week. I used to work for a brand called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. And I used to speak in these kind of events all the time, and then COVID hit. And for the last 2-3 years, I haven't done a live event. This is my first time in 3 years. And it's amazing for me because it symbolizes that we've come past that part of our lives. And I think that it's really cool that as a society, as a country, as a nation, we got through that. So can I get a round of applause for us getting through COVID? Now, who came here today because they want to know, or they already are investors and they want to learn how to scale their portfolio? Okay. Who is brand new to property? They've never bought, but they like the idea of it and they want to start their portfolio maybe today? Who came here just for the free coffee? It's not even free, it's really expensive these days. And who's not going to raise their hand no matter what I ask? There's always a few of you. So ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about how you can turn property into a side hustle, but also how you can build a retirement fund that takes less than 10 years to do and build generational wealth for your children to come. Now, when I was younger, I had a dream. Who's been told that your dream, you can't do what you love for money? No, you have to have a job, you have to sacrifice, you have to surrender in silence, and then you can do your hobby after hours. So because I was young, I was impressionable, I listened to them and I followed that system. The system of get a degree, get a stable job, work for 40, 45, 50 years, and then retire happily into the sunset. And I say happily because we all know people that have retired very unhappily. This system is what I followed because I didn't know any better. I got a degree. I studied at the University of Pretoria. I started working for Dimension Data. It's one of the biggest IT companies in South Africa. And within every industry, you've got acronyms, eh? Can you think of an acronym that comes to mind when you go to work? This one was the biggest one for me. Thank goodness it's Friday. Who's said this one before? Come on, let's see. If your hand's not up, you're lying. Everyone has said this. This was the first acronym I learned, and I thought it was hilarious, because that first week of work, I got to Thursday to Friday, I was like, ooh, I see why they say it all the time. And then after a few months of working, this became part of my vocabulary. Every week I was saying this. Now guys, if you're saying this every week, what you're saying is, I hate 5 days of the 7 days of my week. I'm living for the Saturday. Like, there's got to be a better way, right? Now, some people don't hate their job. I hated my job. You might be lucky, you might love your job, but I hated my job. And because of this, I started self-sabotaging. I started going in late, I left early, I was rude, I was disrespectful, and I got fired. And I was left broke, unemployed. I was 23, 24 years old, and I felt like the system had failed me. You know, like I did all the steps that my parents and everybody told me to do, and it didn't work for me. And then I met this man. Who's read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad? Oh man. If your hand isn't up, ladies and gentlemen, make a note, life-changing book. If you want to understand passive income, if you want to understand cash flow, if you want to understand property, probably one of the best starting books. It's not very practical, but it's a very good starting book. And what he said is real estate investing, even on a small scale, remains a tried and tested means of building enormous wealth. And that's what I wanted. Isn't that what you want? Isn't that why you're here on a Saturday? You could be out, having a dope. You could be out watching sports, but you're here because you want to build wealth. So where am I today? It's 10 years since I was fired. I now focus predominantly on blocks of flats, residential blocks of flats. So there was a question earlier when Miguel was speaking around, how do you get finance for an individual unit? How do you get a finance for the entire complex? So that's the challenge. Financing a complex is very hard. The banks don't like it. So I've started focusing on that. I'm now financially independent, which means that if I were to lose my job or my ability to earn an income today, I could live off my property portfolio. I couldn't really travel or do all those nice things, but at least if I get fired again, I've got a backup plan. And I've also been able to follow my dream of becoming an author, having written specifically 2 property-related books. So if you haven't seen them, please go get yourself a copy. I don't say this to impress you unless you're young, single, and ready to mingle. But more to impress upon you, there's another system. The system we were all taught is not the only way. There is a way you can retire young, I think. And I'm here to prove that case to you. Is that okay? Let's do it. So the agenda, 4 main things that we're going to be going through. I'm going to explain to you why property is, in my opinion, the best asset vehicle. How to make money in property. There are 2 primary ways to make money in property. I'm going to share with you 4 or 5 strategies that give you profit from day one, and then designing a freedom plan. If you do want to connect with me on social media, I've got all of my channels there, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also come and chat to me afterwards. My main platform is YouTube. That's where I put all my content, so check it out. So why property? So first of all, we all know the difference between an asset and a liability. An asset is something that puts money into your pockets. A liability is when your wife takes money. Making sure you're listening over there. Yeah, they don't lie. Let's do a test. I want to see how clever the people are in this room. Put your hand up if you think this is an asset. I haven't said it yet. Is a car, a brand new Mercedes-Benz, is that an asset? Is it a liability? It can be an asset if you put it on Uber, and what you get on Uber in terms of income is greater than your expenses. Asset. But as soon as you drive the Mercedes off the showroom floor, you go and impress the friends that you don't even like, you've lost a lot of money. What about a house? Assets. Who says assets? Who says a house is an asset? Come on, guys. I need to see more hands here. What about a holiday home? Is a holiday home an asset? Well, if you put it on Airbnb, I didn't say that. If you have a holiday home that you use twice a week, for 2 weeks of the year, the rest of the time it's empty, is that an asset? That's a liability. Okay, these are easy questions. Let me give you a hard one. Are you ready? Is this an asset or a liability, your spouse? I see a lot of young, nervous men over here. And I see a lot of ladies looking at their spouses saying, put your hand up. Put your hand up. So a spouse should be an asset if they're encouraging you, supporting you, and helping you reach your ambitions. That's an asset. If not, it might be a liability, and you'll have to find an exit strategy for that one. So why is property such a great investment? It is the only investment where the bank will give you money. The only reason property is better than stocks, better than starting your own business, better than any other business venture, is the banks will give you money. If you go to the bank, if you go to ABSA and you say, I've got crypto, can I buy crypto? Give me some money, loan me some money. What are they going to say? They're going to say, you're crazy. If I say, I want to buy some stocks, I want to buy ABSA shares, I want to buy an ETF, they're going to say no. But go to them with good affordability, a good credit score, and a decent property, you get finance. And you're able to use OPM, other people's money. You can use the bank's money, private money, you can use creative strategies. I'm going to show you a few, but that's the only reason property is better. So if you're scared of debt, if you don't like debt, then this is not the business for you, because you're not going to scale. If your idea is to buy a property, pay it off over the next 10, 15 years, then buy my next one, that's fine. You're going to get financial freedom in 45 years' time. But you can scale and buy 10 properties in 1 year if you have the right affordability and credit score. So how can we make money in property? There's 2 main ways. You can make a note of this. It's really important. Cash flow and appreciation. Cash flow and appreciation. Now, cash flow works in your lower income, your lower LSM markets. So if you look at the CBD of Johannesburg, CBD of Pretoria, those are examples where the cash flow strategy works. Your appreciation strategy works better in your suburbs and your higher income areas. So I would use an example of Hillbrow is a cash flow area, lower LSM, high density. Bryanston, Sandton, appreciation strategy because it's in the suburbs. Okay. Now both of these have a contradiction. Cash flow, if we look on the left-hand side, works because your rent is greater than your expenses, leaving you with a recurring income. Okay? But your appreciation in those lower LSM areas is not great. So in Hillbrow, you can buy a flat for 200, 300,000, making 7,000 Rand rent. You're making positive cash flow. You're getting monthly profits. But in 20 years' time, Hillbrow is still going to be worth probably 200, 220,000. It's not going to appreciate in value as much. Versus buying in Sandton, you're not going to find a deal where the rent covers the expenses. Unless you maybe do Airbnb or you're a bit creative sometimes, but it's not easy. But you've got appreciation. So what kind of investor are you? Do you prefer to be in the suburbs because that's where you feel safe? Okay, but then change your expectation. You're going to take a 15-year to 20-year journey to get free. You could also do flipping. It's an appreciation strategy. You buy a distressed property at a discount. You force the value through renovating, through improving the value of the asset. You sell it at a premium. You walk away with a short-term profit. That's also a great strategy. Now, I chose cash flow because I want financial freedom now. I want it now. And financial freedom means your passive income, your income from your tenants paying you rent every single month is more than what you need as a living cost. So if you need 30,000 Rand to live your lifestyle today and you have 30,000 Rand in passive income coming from your property portfolio, do you have to go to work on Monday? I mean, you still can if you want to earn some more. But you can also call in sick, a mental health day. So positive cash flow is what I focus on. Now cash flow has an evil twin. So positive cash flow is when your rent is greater than your expenses, leaving you with a monthly profit. But there's also another side of cash flow. Okay? This is the side more people are familiar with, the cash flow negative side. Who's got some cash flow negative investments? You don't have to be shy, no one's looking. Okay, let me show you a negative cash flow investment. This is where your rental income is less than your expenses, your OPEX cost to run the property. Here's a new build from iGrow. Okay, this is in the northern suburbs of Cape Town. You can see that the price of the property is 1.129 million, and it's making 90,000 Rand in yearly income. Who thinks this is a good deal? Who thinks it's a bad deal? Who's really tired of me asking them questions to raise their hands? Okay, I'll stop. This is what it looks like on the inside. It's lovely. You know, developers are good at targeting first-time buyers, but we're not in the first-time buyer industry here. We're in the investor segment. The money is made by the developer when you buy these. They're not made by you. Let me get practical. So this is the Property 24 home loan calculator. So I put in the purchase price, 0 deposit. So I'm getting 100% finance from the bank, 9% interest over 20 years. There's my bond repayment, 10,000. That's how much it costs me to pay the bank back to finance this deal. If I look on the monthly cash flow basis, my first expense, the bond. I also have to pay levies, rates and taxes, insurance. I have to put some stuff aside for provisions, management fee, maintenance, vacancies, water and electricity, etc. My rent on this deal is 7,500. So I need to spend 5,000 Rand of my salary or my other income stream to now fund my tenant's lifestyle. Is that still an asset? Now, the argument could be made that in 20 years' time, this property is going to be worth more. That argument can be made, but you have to realize that's speculating. So if the developer who's earning a commission of selling this to you, if he says it's going to double in value in 10 years' time, does that sound realistic to you? Or does a commission earner who's trying to get you to make a decision, he's trying to make a better case for himself? Yeah. So that's negative cash flow. I don't really touch that stuff. That's just making you poorer, it erodes your affordability. And now what you have to do is you have to work extra hard at your job to keep that safe because you have to fund all of these liabilities that you've got. Cash flow positive. This is what I focus on, and it works in the lower LSM. This is where it works. So, Joburg CBD, this is an area called Berea. Okay, here you've got a 4-bedroom apartment being sold for 400,000 Rand. Okay, it looks quite simple. It's not fancy, but there is a massive demand. I can tell you that if you have to evict a tenant, within a few weeks you've got another tenant in there because the density and the requirement, the demand for tenants is very high. So the numbers, my bond repayment is 3,000. Rates and taxes, I've got more provisions, a lot more provisions because it's higher risk. So I put more money aside for maintenance, more money aside for vacancies, more money aside for utilities. I'm making more rent than the new build, and I'm getting a profit now of 1,300. Now, who can retire if they have one of these properties? With that profit, who can retire? No one, eh? I mean, unless you stop shopping at Woolies. You go to Checkers only. Now, you can't retire on 1,300, but let's imagine that you buy 5 of these, and you've got 5, 6, maybe 7,000 Rand in passive income coming in now. Would you now have the confidence to go to your boss and say, you know, Fridays are hard for me to work. I just don't like working on Fridays. And the boss is going to say, well, we don't like paying you on Fridays. And you say, that's fine. I'll take a pay cut because I know I've covered my income already. Now you've got Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You're reinvesting that what? Into your property business. You're finding more deals. You're finding more money. As you increase your cash flow, you also increase your affordability and attractiveness to the banks. So you technically can get infinite financing. Okay, you buy another 5 units. You've got now 10, 15,000 coming in per month. You go back to your boss. You say, Thursdays. You know, I want a long weekend every weekend. Give me Thursdays off. And what is he going to say? Well, then I can't pay you on Thursday. That's fine. I'll take the pay cut. Now you've got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You're reinvesting, building your property business.
That's good.
Then you buy another 5 of these. You go back to your boss. Now your boss is pooping. Because he knows every time you come and speak to him, he loses more and more of your time. And you say to him, I can't work Wednesdays. And it's not fair for me to just work 2 days a week as a permanent employee. Why don't I become a consultant, a contractor? And you can now pay me triple what you would pay a permanent employee because contractors and consultants earn roughly 3 to 5 times more than an employee. So I can now work a bit of Monday, a bit of Thursday, maybe 8 to 10 hours per week, make more or less almost the same as I was making as a full-time employee. I've now bought all of my time back, and all I'm doing is I'm scaling. I'm reinvesting. Guys, this is a 10-year business to get to a point where you could maybe leave your job. For some people, it's 15. For some people, it's 20. But for some people who don't start this, it's never. Eventually, you can go up to your boss and you say, I've upped my income, so up yours. Wouldn't that be a nice conversation? I know some people here are smiling. They've got that evil grin because they know how bad their boss is. They know how much torture they've been through. Okay, so how do we create a plan? We've got this 10-year goal in mind. How do we make it real? So I'd like you to take out your pen and your paper. We're going to do an exercise together. So we need to answer 3 questions to create a plan to financial freedom. 3 steps. Step number 1. You have to determine the size of the portfolio that you need to reach financial freedom. And the calculation is simple. Income target divided by cash flow of deal. Income target divided by cash flow of deal. So I've used an example here. Imagine you want to earn 30,000 Rand per month in passive income. That's your goal, to be financially free. And let's say you like the Berea model. An average deal is going to make you this much profit. So dividing what you need by the profit you get per deal will tell you how many properties you need to buy. 23. So 30,000, your number of income target divided by the profit you can get per deal gives you the number of these investments that you need to be financially free. 23, it sounds like a lot, I know, but it's 10 years we're talking about here. That's not that much. Step number 2 is you need to work out how much capital is required to build this. Now you can use the bank's money, you can use private finance, you can use creative finance, but at some point you're going to have to put some of your own capital down. That's the reality. I mean, there's a lot of people out there saying you can do money with no money down. I would call them snake oil salesmen. I would be very dodgy of those people. So capital required would be the deposit. The rest is paid by the bank. That's your down payment. Let's call it 10%. And your buying costs, transfer fees, bond registration fees. You times that by the number of units that you need to buy, and that'll give you the cost of your money in the deal. In this example, 30,000, which is a 10% deposit on a 300,000 Rand purchase, 20,000 buying cost, times 23 gives you 1.15 million. It's a lot of money. But guys, this is 10 years. I think it's possible to save maybe 1 million in 10 years' time. And maybe it's not. Then you have to change your timeline and say, I'm doing a 20-year plan to freedom. It's not a race. It's about getting there. Final one is freedom timeline. So you take your capital required divided by what you can save per year. So this is to determine how long it's going to take you. So I take here the 1.15, and I've just, for simple maths, I've used that I can save on a yearly basis 115,000, which is about 10,000 Rand per month, roughly. So for the next 10 years, I'm committing 10,000 Rand per month of my salary. I'm putting it into my property business to buy properties. So a 10-year period is going to be my financial timeline. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how you make a plan. You find out how many units you need, how much of your own capital is going to be required. The rest you're going to finance from the bank or another mechanism. And it's going to take you 10 years to do. For some people have ambitious goals. I've heard people say they want 300,000 Rand per month. I mean, I don't know what you do with that much money. I'd rather have 30,000 and never have to report to a boss in my life, but, you know, to each their own. So your plan here is to buy 2.3 flats in Berea, Hillbrow, or the CBD of Johannesburg over the next 10 years, and you could be financially free. Who thinks this is a possible achievement? It's realistic. Hey, maybe it's a 15-year plan, maybe it's a 20-year plan. We all come from different backgrounds. We have different, situations. I appreciate that. But I don't think it's realistic to believe that everyone can reach financial freedom, even if it's not through property. By compounding, anyone can reach freedom. Okay, so we've spoken about the buy-to-let in the Hillbrow Bereas. That's not a super exciting strategy. Let me show you some other stuff. Multi-lets. Who's heard of multi-lets before? That's exciting. Multi-lets is the same as a buy-to-let, but instead of having a single unit, you have multiple units. So you have multiple tenants. Here's an example of one. So this is a block of 9 units. This was one of our recent purchases. We couldn't get financing from the bank because the property is not sectionalized. Remember what Miguel said. The banks have concentration risk. If you go to them with a block of 9 units, they're going to say, we don't want exposure to 9 units. We don't want exposure to the whole sectional scheme. We'll give you 30% financing. Netbank will give you 30, FNB 30. So what you have to do as an investor is you have to buy this cash, sectionalize it into 9 units, and then go get 3 units financed by Netbank, 3 by FNB, 3 by Standard Bank. Now, why do you want to do all of this effort? Because of the return. This is what this property is doing for us now. So we've got rates and taxes. We don't have a bond because it's a cash purchase. Okay? Rates and taxes, utilities and provisions, minus the 45,000 Rand in rent that it's making, giving a 30,000 Rand cash flow. Now, our strategy is to sectionalize, refinance, pull all of our money out, recycle that into the next building. Now, when we do that, when we get finance on the bank, we're going to have a bond repayment and our cash flow is going to go down. But we'll only take as much finance to make sure that the deal is still cash flow positive. Are you guys with me? And then what you do is you recycle whatever you get out of this, the equity you release, you refinance into the next one. You do the same thing. You sectionalize, you refinance, you buy another one. Because you have to use private finance here. You have to use the Stokvel mentality, the crowdfunding mentality. You get 5 people with 300,000 Rand each, you pool your capital, you buy one of these. Now that's an advanced strategy. I would say you start out in the CBD, you do 1 or 2 small units, you get bank finance, you see if you like the market. Can you handle it? If you can't, you might want to go Airbnb in the suburbs. You might want to go student accommodation. There's many different alternatives. Are you guys with me? Is this making sense? What about student accommodation? That's also a multi-let strategy. You have a house, 5 bedrooms, and you have 10 students living there. This is a great strategy. So in Joburg, I focus on the blocks of flats, the inner cities. In Cape Town, where I'm currently living, I do student accommodation. And that's just to diversify. I don't want everything in Johannesburg. I want to have a little bit everywhere. So in Cape Town, an area called Observatory, it's very close to UCT, very popular student accommodation area. This is what the property looks like on the inside. Perfectly catered for students. We've got bunk beds, we've got desks, everything is in place. It's also NSFAS accredited. Anybody know NSFAS? A government institution that funds students, books, and accommodation. So we get paid not by students, we get paid by NSFAS directly. So the numbers on this deal are quite exciting. We got 100% finance from the bank, me and 3 of my friends. We went and pooled our affordability, got finance. Rates and taxes, utilities, provisions, walking away with 15,000 Rand cash flow, no money in the deal. Why? Because we bought it at a discount, and then FNB, the bank who gave us the finance, they said you have a further equity of 350,000 in the building. Because you bought it at a discount, we'll give you finance up to here. We'll give you a finance on the value of the property, not what you bought it at. So we use that equity to fund the renovations, to do the buying costs, to do the transfer costs. So this is an example of a no money down deal, very rare. This is probably the only one I've done in 10 years. So it's possible, but it's not very common. But who'd like that? Who'd like 15,000 Rand passive income for the rest of your life and no money down? Guys, if your hand's not up, maybe you're not understanding the question over here. Maybe you need another double espresso or something. We're talking about a realistic plan to get 100% finance and make 15,000 Rand passive income and get your Friday and Thursday back. You don't have to go to your boss twice now to get 2 days off. You just go once and you say Thursday to Friday, it doesn't work. Rent to rent. You don't need to buy property to make cash flow. You can do what I call the subletting strategy. So it's simple. You rent a property. What's your name, sir? Neo. Okay, so I'm going to assume Neo has a 5-bedroom property near Wits. I'm going to rent it from Neo directly. And then I'm going to go and find myself 5, 6, 7 nice student tenants, and I'm going to sublet to them. So I'm going to rent from him for 5 years. He gets guaranteed rent. I'm going to sublet to these 7 ladies, and because I've got 7 people paying me rent, I've got economies of scale. What they pay me is more than what I pay him. So you pay the guaranteed rent to Neo. I cover the bills. I cover rates and taxes, water, utilities. I give you a decent rent. You happy. I then sublet to other tenants to get more income than I'm getting on my expenses. So as a visual, that's all you're doing. You're renting for less than you're subletting to. So as an example, West Dean area here where University of Johannesburg, you can find a property. Here's a 6-bedroom for rent for 15,000 Rand. This is Neo's property. He doesn't know what he's sitting on. He doesn't know that students want to rent. He's got no idea. Already perfectly catered. I might need to put some furniture in. So I pay Neo rent. Now Neo has to know that I'm subletting. I can't do this illegally. But I can get into an agreement with him. If he's a distressed landlord, I can say, for 5 years, you're getting guaranteed 15,000. He'll take it. Rates and taxes, utilities, provisions, 37,000 is what I'm subletting to my 7 ladies, 9 students at 4.2K, and I'm getting a 6,000 Rand cash flow. I'm not buying the property. I don't own the property. After 5 years, Neo gets his property back. He can do with it what he wants. Or I can extend the lease agreement. Now, this is a great strategy, and I can tell you it's very hard to find and very hard to execute. I've never done it. I've had a few students of mine that have done it. I've never done it. I just feel like it's too much effort to go and find this to make it work. But what I wanted to show you is that you don't necessarily need capital. With this deal, all you'd need to pay is maybe a deposit for a month or 2 and pay for furniture costs. Maybe 100,000. So why is property such a great investment vehicle? Leverage. Here's a great quote from Archimedes. He says, "Give me a place to stand and a lever long enough and I will move the world." You don't need money to invest in property. It helps. But property is something that private finances will finance. You've got creative strategies like rent-to-rent, back-to-back, alienation, land act. You can get commercial finance. You can do stock files. You can do private finance. You can release equity. If you've got a paid-off home in the suburbs, paid off, go get a bank loan on that and then use that finance to go and buy yourself 3 or 4 cash flow positive assets. My final bit of advice, and then I'll take some questions. Jay-Z, in 2019 in June, he became the first hip-hop proven and viable billionaire. That's exciting. And one of the main reasons is because he chose a mentor, he chose a coach, he chose an advisor, a man by the name of Warren Buffett. Who knows Warren Buffett? One of the richest investors in the world. I'm not saying that Jay-Z didn't get it by his own merits. What I'm saying is someone who knew more than him and knew the way to get there gave him a bit of advice. So you become who you surround yourself with. If you've got 5 friends around you and they're all broke, well, then you're probably the 6th one. Get yourself into a better network. Surround yourself with better people. Choose wisely because you become who you surround yourself with. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Property investing can be scary, and sometimes it's nice to have an experienced, seasoned investor look over your deals. That's why I've created my property coaching program, where I sit with you on a one-to-one basis and help you through the process of buying your first investment property. If this sounds interesting, book a free 15-minute call with me and we'll see if it's the right fit.